Hi everyone, Amy Williams, Sanger Unified.
And Zach Smith, Sanger Unified.
And we are addressing the question of, are there any success stories or interesting or unexpected outcomes that have come from initiating universal design for learning in our district? And we are happy to say yes to all of that.
We do.
We've had some great success stories, and we've had some unexpected outcomes from our risk taking, and have learned a lot from our mishaps. And so we're going to share some of those stories with you.
Now, our first story is my favorite story because it connects with a kid that I used to work with. So a former special day class teacher, and a few years back we got a kid from another district, and it was very quickly apparent that this student was inappropriately placed, and so we had him assessed and eventually went through the process of moving this student to an RSP setting, so back into the general education classes. And as those things as the way that usually goes is, once a kid leaves your caseload, you keep tabs on him, but you don't hear much about him. Well, down the line, fast forward a few years, we're in PLC pilots, and we're talking about UDL, and we're in our share out, and this group of teachers stands up and talks about how they had this one student who had a very unique name, and so I knew who he was. And this one student, because they gave choices, it drastically changed the way that he interacted in the classroom. Whereas before, they saw him as more of a quiet, mild-mannered student who they would have to work really hard to elicit information from. Because they gave choices, and some of the choices incorporated the kid's voice and technology, that like 1-2 punch, this kiddo just thrived and shined and actually was able to show mastery of some concepts that they didn't think that he would be able to show mastery of. And I'll never forget what the specific teacher said about him. He said that UDL gave this kid a voice. And what a powerful statement. This kid, prior to this, the teachers didn't see him as having a clear voice, and because of the choices of UDL, now he could shine for the bright and wonderful kid that we all knew he was, but it opened the doors for that. So really exciting. And Amy, what else did you see from that?
Oh, just one of the big ahas from that teacher's statement was the power that he now recognized in Universal Design for Learning and his PLC. Realizing that without these options for students, we are missing out on talent that's there.
Yeah.
So I think not only did the student win in this situation, we have a staff member, a teacher, and a PLC win from this.
Fully agree. What's another story that we have, Amy Williams?
So, another story we have, which we share a lot, is our story about our World Lit team over at the high school, Singer High School. And historically, they have taught famous literature through the traditional methods of textbooks. And so them being a new pilot, this is actually their second year now, they embrace the idea of representation. And so when they went to their unit on Julius Caesar, they really got creative and looked outside the box on how they could represent Julius Caesar, the content, and some of the standards they were teaching in this lesson. And they infused in their lesson for representation graphic novels, audiobooks, e-text, as well as the historical textbook. So when you walked into the classroom, you saw all these resources within the collaborative groups and on their desk. And so what happened is students were now interacting and interfacing with this multimedia and multi-options for representation. The teachers then gave the students the choice on which way they wanted to access the content of the story to respond to their lit responses. And what we found was, when we got to see it, is that the students really did pick a variety of options. And through that, what the teachers found was the students' responses overall were much more robust, because the way that they were able to access and work through the content was their choice, their option. They even took it a step further and started asking students about why they chose one over the other, and would they have done the same thing the next time. And that really opened up some metacognition for the team as well.
That was a fun story. I loved seeing those graphic novels. I felt like I could just sit
Yeah.
there and read them myself on
Yeah.
Julius Caesar.
Definitely different pictures. One student actually said she preferred the graphic novels over the other mediums because the graphic novels really showed the emotions in the drawings and the illustrations. So I thought that was pretty exciting.
That's cool
connection.
stuff.
Another success story I want to share before we move on to one of Zach's is our story we share about rubrics. And this was one of our stepping in the muds.
Yep, we learned from this one.
But we learned so much. This is a story we tell all the time. We had a teacher who really got on board with the idea of action and expression.
Mm-hmm.
Really wanted to give her students a variety of options to express what they knew. And they did. And they ran with it. And what she found when she went to grade it is that the rubric she had, it was not finite enough to grade what her goal was. So she ended up developing 6 different rubrics for each option that she had given them. And even though it was a ton of work for her, what she said is, I'm glad I did it because now I understand the importance of having a rubric that's robust enough to access content and to evaluate the content regardless of what the student or how the student is delivering it to me. She never once complained or walked backwards. She just said, I'm in this and now I know better.
Mm-hmm. It was neat. She looked at moving from, oh my gosh, UDL means I have to create a rubric for all 6 of these. And then by doing so, it actually made it less clear what she was assessing. Whereas when she went to one rubric, it actually made it more clear and it lessened the amount of work. And so now we're telling that to everyone, like, when you need to focus on one really robust rubric around your goal that is able to swallow up all the choices. And that's been just a really, like Amy said, one of those teachable moments that hashtag Rachel Groft taught us. There's a little shout out there for Rachel. And then so another story, and this will be our last one for this question, is this week, actually, we had a team of teachers in a 2nd grade class teaching all about comparing and contrasting. And they were so bold enough to have this be part of one of their formal observation with their principal and dive in that well. And what they found, it was really fun. I sat with the principal and talked with him about it as well, was that when they gave choices to the kids, yes, it felt chaotic. And they all admitted that it was not something that they were used to and initially comfortable with. But both the principal and the teachers agreed that when they delved into what was happening in the chaos, it was learning. It was kids comparing and contrasting and creating comparing and contrasting statements. And this teacher that I'm specifically thinking about had some pretty challenging behaviors in her classroom, and she didn't realize it. Her principal called it out at their observation, their post-conference. He was like, hey, tell me about your the behaviors. And so she sits, she thinks, she's like, there weren't any behaviors. And he's like, I know, like, there weren't any behaviors. That's nuts. And they were just so excited because, and she said it. She was like, when kids are engaged and they care about it, it really helps with the behavior. And oh man, that just I was grinning ear to ear to hear that story. And I know that, you know, there are parts of the lessons that I'm sure were choppy or things that it was their first time. But just that alone, again, was another one of those things totally worth the price of admission, totally something that I know that teacher and now that principal will remember forever as a benefit to this whole UDL thing. So those are some stories that we have.
And I think, you know, that story, if we wanted to share overall or trends of success, that story really represents the trend of success about a decrease in student behaviors because the engagement is high, and teachers having aha moments at the end when they say, oh no, there were no behaviors and they got started sooner and I have more work from them.
Yeah. It's really neat.
Yeah.
It's so funny you say that. I literally left a meeting not 45 minutes ago where the teacher's like, they're working and I don't know what to do. Like, they're working and I don't know what to do. And it was like, well, we gave her some strategies and we talked about executive functioning, but it was just so fun. It's just been so fun to have those conversations. So, yep, I think we love our job.
Yes,
so we
I
can
think
say
so.
that wholeheartedly. All right, so thanks for listening to our questions, and we'll hit you back up with another one
Yeah,
here in a
thank
few.
you. Good job.